My name is Emily Carter, and for a long time, I believed I had the perfect marriage. When I first met Daniel, I thought he was everything I could ever want in a partner: kind, hardworking, dependable, and gentle. We were high school sweethearts who grew up in the same small town in Ohio, and people used to say we were made for each other. At 22, when he got down on one knee in front of the lake where we had our first kiss, I thought it was the beginning of forever. For the first few years of our marriage, I was happy. Daniel and I rented a tiny one-bedroom apartment above a bakery, and the smell of fresh bread every morning was our alarm clock. We didn't have much, but we had each other. We'd cook pasta late at night, watch movies on a secondhand couch, and dream about the future. I thought those were the building blocks of a love that would last a lifetime. But as the years passed, something shifted. Daniel's career in insurance began to demand more of his time. He'd come home later and later, shoulders slumped from exhaustion, eyes glued to his phone, even during dinner. At first, I tried to be understanding. I told myself that this was what adulthood looked like, that it wasn't about butterflies anymore, but about responsibilities. Still, the silence at our dinner table grew louder every night. One evening, I made his favorite meal, chicken pot pie, the way his mother used to make it, and set the table with candles just to remind us of the early days. He walked in late, muttered, "Smells good," then went straight to the shower. By the time he sat down, the food was cold. He ate quietly, barely looking at me, and when I asked how his day was, he answered in short, clipped sentences. That night, when I lay beside him, I stared at the ceiling and wondered when I had become invisible. The thing about feeling invisible is that it doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow stretching across the room at sunset. First, it's small things, him forgetting to ask about my day, skipping our Friday movie nights, or leaving early on Sundays when we used to walk in the park. Then it becomes bigger things, forgetting anniversaries, choosing work trips over family gatherings, and falling asleep before we even had a chance to talk. I tried everything I could think of to reignite what we once had. I left little notes in his lunch bag, planned surprise date nights, even tried picking up hobbies he liked just so we'd have more to share. But nothing seemed to matter. He was there physically, yet his mind was somewhere else, like I was living with a stranger wearing my husband's face. One afternoon, I sat on the porch with my neighbor, Sarah, who had been my best friend since childhood. She could see the sadness written across my face. "Emily," she said gently, "you can't be the only one holding the weight of this marriage. Love is a two-way street. You deserve to be seen." Her words struck something deep inside me, because for the first time, I admitted out loud what I had been too afraid to think. I felt invisible in my own marriage. Months passed this way, and I started to lose myself. The Emily who used to laugh freely, dance in the kitchen, and dream about traveling the world began to fade. Instead, I became a ghost of myself, moving through each day on autopilot. I worked at the library, a job I once loved, but even there I felt disconnected. Books had always been my escape, but now, even stories about love felt like painful reminders of what I had lost. Then, one day, everything changed. It was a rainy Thursday, and I was shelving books in the fiction section when a man approached me, asking where he could find novels by Steinbeck. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. His name was Michael Turner. He had just moved back to town after years of living in Chicago, and as we talked, I found myself smiling in a way I hadn't in a long time. There was something comforting about the way he listened, really listened, not just waiting for his turn to speak, but truly hearing me. Over the weeks, Michael became a regular at the library. He'd stop by to check out books, and sometimes he'd linger just to chat. He asked about my favorite novels, my childhood, my dreams. At first, I felt guilty for how much I looked forward to seeing him. But it wasn't romantic, not then. It was simply the relief of being seen again, of having someone notice the details about me that Daniel no longer did. One afternoon, as we sat on the library steps drinking coffee, I confessed, "Sometimes I feel like I could disappear and my husband wouldn't even notice." Michael looked at me, his eyes soft with empathy. "Emily, no one deserves to feel invisible in their own home," he said quietly. His words stayed with me long after he left. I didn't fall in love with Michael overnight. It wasn't some whirlwind romance out of a movie. It was slow, subtle, and unexpected. It was in the way he remembered the little things I said, like how I loved tulips or how rainy days made me feel cozy. It was in the way he'd laugh at my jokes, not out of politeness, but because he genuinely found them funny. It was in the way he looked at me like I mattered. Meanwhile, things with Daniel only got worse. One evening, I tried to tell him how I felt, that I missed us, that I needed him. He sighed, rubbed his temples, and said, "Emily, I'm tired. Can we not do this right now?" That was the moment something inside me broke. I realized I had been waiting for him to notice me, to choose me, to love me the way he used to. But maybe that man no longer existed. I started spending more time with Michael, though always in innocent ways. Coffee, conversations, shared laughter. But the truth was undeniable. I was finding pieces of myself again through him. For the first time in years, I felt alive. It wasn't about choosing between two men. It was about choosing myself, choosing to no longer settle for invisibility. I didn't leave Daniel because of Michael. I left because I finally understood that love isn't about duty or habit. It's about being seen, valued, and cherished. The night I told Daniel I wanted a separation, he looked stunned. "I thought we were fine," he said, his voice hollow. That hurt the most, that he truly hadn't noticed my unhappiness. I packed my things, not with anger, but with a quiet resolve. Starting over wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had made the right choice. But slowly, I built a new life. I moved into a small apartment near the library, decorated it with plants and books, and found joy in simple routines. And through it all, Michael was there, not to rescue me, but to walk beside me as I rediscovered who I was. Eventually, our friendship grew into love, the kind that feels gentle yet powerful, steady yet exciting. With Michael, I didn't feel invisible. I felt like the most important person in the room. And maybe that's what true love really is, not fireworks or grand gestures, but the quiet certainty of being seen and loved exactly as you are. Looking back now, I don't regret my marriage to Daniel. He was my husband, and for a time he gave me love. But sometimes love changes and people grow apart. What matters is that I found the courage to choose visibility over invisibility, to choose love that lifts me up rather than weighs me down. My story isn't about betrayal or blame. It's about rediscovery. It's about realizing that we all deserve to be seen, heard, and cherished. And if you ever find yourself feeling invisible in love,